TGO, Tom Gruenwald Outdoors, is brought to you in part by HT Premium Ice Tackle, Polar Fire Gear. This is how it's done. Vexilar, ice fishing begins when you turn your Vexilar on. And Tourism Saskatchewan, Canada's best freshwater fishing.
Welcome back to Tom Gruenwald Outdoors. We're out fishing Saskatchewan's Lac La Plonge for lake trout. We did okay yesterday. We had a lot of fish going, just weren't super aggressive. It was like maybe 1 in every 15 fish or so that we'd mark would actually hit. But we ended up with several lake trout. I think the small size probably ran somewhere around 3 pounds. The biggest one was probably about 5. And that's average. Typical size out here runs about 3 to 7. Healthy population of lake trout. And that's why we came out here in the first place. Now today, we came out, we're in a little bit deeper water. Yesterday we were working a break that went from somewhere around 35 feet. There was a hole in that area, it went down to about 115. About the deepest we actually got out was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 feet. There, I just had one come up and bump at it there. They seem like when they're not real aggressive, they'll come up behind and they'll just bump that tube jig from underneath. And I feel slack, so I know there's something there, but when you set up, nobody's home. Anyway, today we came out around a little bit deeper point. We're fishing right now in 65 feet, all the way up to about 80, and there's a hole here that goes down to about 150. So we thought, okay, we're gonna move around a little bit and use a real mobile approach. We got those 10-inch Polar Fire augers, and again, you wanna use a larger diameter hole. That 10-inch hole is perfect, and in the event we do catch a bigger fish, we're prepared and ready to go. I've got another fish chasing me here. They seem like they're coming up on the baits today a little bit harder, so hopefully we're gonna get bit. But we're gonna utilize a mobile approach. The place that we were fishing yesterday, a good drop off off one of the deeper holes in the lake. We've marked another 3 or 4 such spots on the map that are similar and characteristic to that. And our game plan is gonna be to come out here, we're gonna pop maybe 15 or 20 holes. 4 of us will work those holes. Maybe we'll spend an hour and a half here just kind of working through these fish, see if we can pick up a couple, and then we'll move to the next spot, give that a shot. Hopefully it's gonna work out for us. You've got some bend in the rod. That's not a small fish, is it? Come up. Hit that, I got him on that Laker Pro and the bait caster. Oh yeah, you got him. Yeah. Oh, you got it. There you go. Another Lac La Plonge lake trout. And on that tube jig.
That tube jig.
It's a magic lure.
Aggressively pulling it up. No bait. I was kind of doing what you were doing.
Yep.
And you'd see the fish chase it up. As they got there, instead of pausing, yank it again, they'd run up and...
So you got him to come up aggressive. See, now the fish that I just caught here, I actually stopped and I was just shaking it maybe 6 inches, just kind of working it. And then he popped it. So hey, maybe they're just starting to get a little more aggressive. Well, that's great. It's interesting, you know, we're using these tube jigs, and I didn't put any bait on it, and these guys were kind of looking at me like, really? No, I mean, not even a little taste of meat or anything. And I said, no, you know, with these lake trout, when they're aggressive and they're on, yeah, I really believe that the tube jig is something it's drawing them in. They see that big profile, they get excited, competitive, and they come up and rip on it.
Well, now I'm a believer.
Nice job, Steve. Way to go.
Right.
All right, let's go and get some more. All right. I'd like to talk just a little bit about line choice too when you're lake trout fishing. You know, a lot of people that are out there aren't really fishing that really super deep 100, 150, 200 feet of water necessarily. When you are fishing deeper, a line that's low or no stretch, like a braid, is a good choice. Again, it's just going to help you get a better and more solid hook set, and helps you keep that line just right so that you can, bang, nail the fish when he bites. Now we're fishing anywhere from 40 to say 60 feet here, and I'm using these more limber rods. And again, you could still use a braid if you want to. Some of the braids do tend to build up ice a little bit more than a monofilament does. And a monofilament certainly has a little more stretch and a little more give. And again, with that combination with the limber rod, that forgiveness, I think, is good. If you do get a fish that makes a head shake or a hard run, it allows you to help keep that line tight. And I'm out here lake trout fishing. Again, the average fish is 3 to 7 pounds. I don't need it overkill. I don't need to be running 17 or 25 pound line out here. I've simply got an 8-pound monofilament on here, a nice soft line. And using that along with the faster tipped rod and a reel that's got a good drag, and setting that drag properly, I can catch all the lake trout I want. And I'm confident that I'm going to be able to catch these fish. If anything happens to go wrong after I've caught a fish, of course I always want to make sure I'm checking my knots carefully, because I am using a lighter line, and I also want to check. I'll just take, again, my forefinger here and my thumb, and I'll just kind of run the line through there and just feel if there's any nicks or damage. It's real easy. Just take out a scissors. I just cut that line and re-rig. Consider the type of line that you're using with your system, and make sure, again, you balance your rod, reel, and line and bait. The better balanced your system, the more effective you're going to be.
You're watching TGO, Tom Gruenwald Outdoors.
All right, if you look at the screen here right now, folks, my jig is showing up where you see that yellow 10. I'm actually on the 80-foot scale, so I have to take that times 4. That's 40 feet down. Again, just I'm raising that bait, you can see, lifting it up 3, 4, 5 feet at a time, and then bringing it back down. Now, frequently what's happened to me when I drop my jig like this, again, I'm going down a pretty good distance, sometimes 10, 12, 15 feet. That activity and that motion has brought fish in. This water, again, you gotta remember, it's very clear. These fish can see a long distance. If they're just kind of cruising and they're not really actively feeding, but they see that movement, it just gets their attention, brings them in. There's a fish down below it. See right there, here he comes now. That drop worked, and there's a fish rushing me real hard right there. It's coming up on my jig. Turned red, it's right below it. See now, there he goes down a little bit. The trick here is I can get him in on those drops, on lifts and drops, but then the trick is trying to figure out how to trigger those fish. And what you have to do is you use these electronics to watch. Now, if without the electronics, I don't know that a drop or a lift is actually bringing fish in. I have no concept of that. I can guess, and I can experiment with that, and maybe by trial and error, I catch a fish after a drop or after a lift. What kind of depth you got over there, Smitty?
I'm sitting just a hair over 75 feet.
I'm 68, so we got a little break there between us.
A little bit of a drop off, yeah.
You marking bait fish there too?
Not bait fish, but I've got a couple of trout, one on the bottom and one about 6, 8 feet up.
Perfect. I got a huge school of bait fish moving through here right now.
Suspended?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywhere from about 10 to 20 feet off the bottom. It's about a 10-foot thick school of bait fish. Got him? Need help?
Hey, fish, he stayed up there. That's a good fish, Steve.
Oh yeah, that's a nice fish. There you go.
Oh,
Nice job. You were telling me it was a little one.
There.
Look at that.
Yeah,
he ate it.
that,
He ate it. No, that's a good sign.
Yeah. Before you came up here, Tom, we had a week of 10 days of minus 30 weather. It was a really, really good cold snap. And literally the day that you showed up, the weather changed. We've been single digits all week. And I think that's probably another thing that's really helped turn these fish on. And we're noticing it the longer we're out here, the more active they're getting.
And that's minus 30 Celsius, I think,
yeah.
point out too.
Yeah.
So we're talking really cold. Yeah, we built up. You got a good 2 feet of ice out here right now, easily, and it's really set up nicely. Just look how pretty those fish. I just love the markings on lake trout. Such a pretty fish.
Okay, we should get her back in there.
How's it going, Dan?
Great. How's the fishing been?
It's been really good. They're a lot more active today.
Are they? Great,
Catching
great,
a lot
great.
of fish, yeah. Thanks for coming out. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Check on these guys, see how you're all doing out here.
Appreciate all the help. This is Dan from Anglers Trail Resort, and that's where we're staying here on Lac La Planche. And you know, we got this set up really nice. got the huts and everything out here. Of course, it's mild, so we can move around and fish, and we got a place to go and warm up. But what a population of lake trout. It's unbelievable.
There's all kinds of lake trout. Just everywhere you go, it seems like there's lake trout.
And you got everything kind of set up here, though, on some deeper breaks. There's like 3 quite deep holes out here, and you're right along the edges of those breaks where the flat drops down into those deep holes. I noticed almost all the huts are set up that way.
Yeah, I have them all on cliffs and stuff. The fish always like to swim the deep water along the ledges there, and then when they're hungry, they come up on the ledges. And if you got your shacks and all your set up right on the ledges, they just come up and hammer your baits.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable, and the fish are running somewhere between like 3 and 7 pounds. We got one a little bigger, maybe 8 or 9 pounds. But I know they do get some bigger fish out here too, though.
Yeah, guys catch them up to 30 pounds.
And the lake record is?
38-pound lake trout, the lake record.
How long ago was that fish caught?
That was caught in 1993 or something.
Fairly recently then too on that. Well, it's a great opportunity. If you really want to fish lake trout, when you've got a population of fish like this, big numbers, a 3 to 7 pound fish, that's nothing to sneeze at. These fish fight hard. Pretty good shot if you spend a few days out here catching a double-digit fish, and there's always an opportunity you might catch one even bigger.
When we've been out here at La Plonge, we've basically been using 2 different types of reels on our rods. The AccuCast, the spinning reel, and what I like to use, especially for the lake trout, I like to use a level wind. This particular one is an HT 5500. It's got a 3.8 to 1 gear ratio, which is important because these trout, when they pick it up, sometimes they're swimming up, and you want to be able to pick up line. It's got the nice level wind handle here. If a trout picks it up, comes screaming to the top, you have a chance at really picking up line on them, getting the hook set again. Another nice feature on this particular reel, it's got the star drag system. Now, bait casters have been known, especially the ones you get for winter fishing, have been known to not have a great drag system. This one's really smooth. You get a big fish, it takes a run, you don't have to worry about whether it's gonna take line out. And yet you can set it tight enough to really, really get that hook set. There we go, got him.
Oh yeah, that's a bigger fish. Nice and easy on the drag here, and just let that limber rod fight the fish. It's a little better fish, guys, feels a little heavier. And he came up rocking it, he came up hard. He came up hard.
Yeah. No, it's nice when they're aggressive like that. You can almost see that it's going to hit it on the Vexilar. And that line is moving like that. You're pretty close.
You see, I'm trying to keep that line tight, folks. Oh, right there in the hole.
I saw it right at the
He's
bottom
still
of
there.
the ice.
He's still right there.
There's more fishing action to come right here on TGO.
Got him.
I'm telling you, fish are biting so light, and those hooks are just barely in the lips. Again, there's the argument for that light-tipped rod. You saw sometimes that fish, he'd make a run down, and then he'd come up, and that rod would kind of go slack, but with that limber rod, I could work it and try to maintain a tight line enough that I got the fish in the hole, and he couldn't turn around. We were able to get him up. Unbelievable. Wow. At that time, it was the drop that brought the fish in. I've been experimenting, and I'm completely convinced both yesterday and today that a fast motion is something that's bringing fish in, not triggering strikes necessarily, but attracting fish in. So in other words, if I reel up real fast, 5 or 10 feet, or drop the bait down 5 or 10 feet, that's what seems to be bringing fish in. And in this case here, it was the drop that seemed to bring him. I had been raising the bait. There again, I just did a drop, and I've got 2 fish. I got one above it and one below it. And it's real uncommon. A lot of times with these fish, when you're working them, you bring the bait up, they'll start chasing and hitting. But Steve mentioned to me yesterday that he had a time where he was actually lowering the bait. It was below the fish. The fish came down to strike his lure. Right now I've got 2 fish down there. And I usually, when you get a couple of any species, doesn't have to be lake trout, you get a couple of fish on the screen, that's a good sign. they'll tend to be a little competitive. If one starts to engage and tries to come in and hit that bait, then the other one will charge it as well, and they'll start fighting over it, so to speak. Fish on. There you go. Ah, it's not even finishing out. Wasn't a lake trout. He caught a burbot. Yeah, you're not supposed to be the burbot king. That title's supposed to go to Steve. Well, well, no matter what species you're fishing for, it's always fun to bring these fish up from deep water, isn't it? You know,
it really is.
It's real important. I think a lot of people like to pump these fish too, and you really don't want to do that. You want to just try to keep that line tight.
Yeah.
Keep the rod tip low whenever you can, and then if you get a lift up on it.
Yeah, when you get him up close to the top, you're going to find he's going to do a little head shaking.
Yeah.
And that's where that soft tip is going to help you out a lot.
Yeah, this is where it is. The initial hook set's the hard part, but then this helps keep the line tight. Yeah, now you got to the swivel, so nice and easy.
That's a good fish.
There we go.
You want to grab?
Go ahead.
There we go.
Yeah, there we are.
That's a beauty.
There we go, Smitty. That's what we're coming for. Telling you what, Saskatchewan lake trout, Lac La Plunge. 3 to 7 pound average. I think we broke the average, Smitty.
I think we did. And you take a look at that. You barely got him hooked.
They're biting so light. Look at this right here. Look how that hook is. I didn't even get the bone of the jaw or anything. I just got some membrane or cartilage there. Now, if I'm working a heavy tipped or a fast action rod or a heavy action rod without that fast tip, okay, I get a little bit of slack line. That hook can easily slide out of there. If I'm fishing a barbless hook, which is mandatory in a lot of places, I go, you know, that real easily can slip out if there's any slack. By using that limber, fast tip, longer rod, I can maintain pressure. I keep that tight. We got the fish in. I mean, look at that. That's how easy that hook slips in and out. Right there. We'll get this pretty fish back in.
There you go. Yeah.
There we go. Thanks for your help, Smitty.
Nice job, Tom.
Awesome, thanks.
Good stuff.
Go back down and get another one.
There you go.
Yep.
There's some bumbles.
Yeah, should be too far down there. He's all right, yeah.
Yeah, just saw him. Good size. Just about got him.
Yeah, you're getting close.
Yeah, he's right at the hole.
Yeah, this isn't a bad fish. That's bigger than that, even that last one, I think. Staying down there.
Yeah, sir.
When they don't want to come up, you know you got something
Right
going.
at the hole, yeah. You got him.
Just got to turn his head in there.
Yeah, and there he is.
Swivel, and there you go. Yeah. Yeah, not a bad fish. There you go, yeah.
There you go, Tom.
Thanks again. Oh, he's fun. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, good stuff.
Man, he came up. They got real aggressive here on this one, guys. He came up real hard on it. Hey, I'd like to give you a little jigging tip here. Anytime that you're jigging for larger game fish, your lake trout, walleye, maybe pike, salmon, trout of any kind, it's real nice for a hook set purpose to kind of tighten up your drag. You still want to make sure there's some give there, so if the fish makes an immediate hard run after the initial hook set, you're not going to have any line breaking or anything, but I like to kind of tighten that drag up a little bit more as I'm jigging. That way we can get a good, boom, solid pop. A lot of times that fish doesn't make an immediate hard run. You know, it doesn't even realize it's hooked right away. So I've got enough time then. At that point I can kind of loosen up that drag a little, and so that, that there's give and I don't have to worry about the chance of my line breaking. And you'll kind of see when I'm working some of these lake trout, a lot of times reaching for the drag knob. Exactly what I'm doing. I'm tightening this up a little bit. That just helps me get more pop in a harder hook set, especially important with the lighter, more limber, fast tipped rod that I'm using. After I get the fish on, then I can loosen up that drag and fight him out. Well, he's giving you a little fight there.
Yeah.
I didn't see his head yet. It's not a bad fish, Steve.
Good fish.
It's a nice one.
Oh, Steve, that's a great fish.
There we go.
Nice.
Hey, way to go, man. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, he smacked that tube, huh? There you go. Well, we just,
You didn't feel big till you got right to the top, sir.
no, we were out, we were hitting a couple of different locations, and we thought we'd give one more spot out here a shot. See if we started marking fish right away. Steve, you nailed a good one. That's a 6, huh?
6, 7.
Yeah, beautiful fish, right on the, upper end of the average. I tell you, this Lac La Planche lake trout fishery is incredible. This has been a great trip, guys. Hey, Steve, I appreciate all the help, everything you put out with us. Ed, it's been a pleasure fishing with you. Smitty, as always, thank you. You're gonna let him go first?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Hey, sure, let's let the people see that one and go back in. It's been a great trip. I wanna thank you guys for everything you've done. I wanna thank you for joining us here. Wherever we go next time, it might be lake trout in Saskatchewan, might be some other wild place, we don't know, but I hope you'll join us here again next time on Tom Gruenwald Outdoors.
TGO has been brought to you in part by HT Premium Ice Tackle, Polar Fire Gear. This is how it's done. Vexilar. Ice fishing begins when you turn your Vexilar on. And Tourism Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, Canada's best freshwater fishing. TGO, where it's all ice fishing all the time.